are, but it's historically accurate, so it should, like the things that happen in it are historically accurate, so it should be a good thing for us to learn. There are,
Sure.
There's a couple questions that you're gonna, well, not a couple, there's 8 questions that we'll look at as we go through the story.
Oh, okay.
Oh my gosh, okay. So let me just go over the brief definition.
Is it due today?
No, we're not watching the whole movie today. We're gonna do, if you can do any of the questions today, you'll do it. Alright, so it's read the background information and watch the film, answer the question as you watch. So there's questions on there that you're gonna go over as, you know, movie guys, you've done this before, right? So take a look at the paragraph right there, we're gonna read that together. Emboldened by his experience in battle, Adolf Hitler mobilized his membership in the Nazi Party and formulated his plan for a national journey to regain power. Benito Mussolini rises to the helm in Italy, leading to the National Fascist Party. Meanwhile, Franklin Delano Roosevelt ushers the U.S. through the crisis of the Great Depression. So all these things are happening at once. We have Hitler that's trying to regain power. We have Mussolini who's starting things in Italy, and then we have FDR who's trying to fix the Great Depression in the United States. All these things are going on at the same time. Why is she?
Wrong.
Okay, what's wrong? Oh, all this stuff?
Yeah.
Alright, in Japan, the quest for expansion and international power leads to increased militarization. Hideki Tojo rises up the ranks. Hitler becomes Chancellor of Germany in 1933, and by 1939, the world explodes into war. After forming a non-aggression pact with Russia, Hitler attempts to conquer Europe, with Japan and Italy as allies. Churchill, now British's prime minister, does his best to keep Britain from total collapse while the U.S. weighs the consequences of entering the war. So remember, we are facing the Great Depression. We're kind of making our way through that when all this is going on. So this is what's happening so far. Okay, so that's a brief example. And then what we'll do is we'll go from watching this into the beginning of World War II, our entry into the war, propaganda that comes out that tries to get people involved in the war and all that kind of stuff. So at this point, all this is going on. We are not in the war. Okay, so does that make sense what we're doing so far? Alright. So I just ask that you don't go on your phone and you don't sleep. Can you do those 2 things?
Yeah.
Watch that for me. I'm getting most of us are. If we're not gonna pay attention, then I'll just turn it off. We'll do something else. Let me
This is what let me know when, and I'll turn lights
thank you.
down.
Just let me
if you
get
like.
this. Oh, I will. And I want it to be too loud, but I want you guys to hear it. So.
You should have heard the speaker in the gym this morning.
Was it loud?
Oh, they did announcements and it felt like their ears just exploded.
Previously,
Alright, so you can turn off.
World War breaks
Thank you.
out.
Yeah, well.
You turn them all off.
Generation comes of age on the battlefield. Hitler, Mussolini, Churchill, Patton, and MacArthur all see action on the front line. But after the Allies and the Central Powers agreed to an uneasy ceasefire and stop fighting each other, they begin to fight their own country.
The National Socialist Party has taken over the government.
And soon, the men from the front lines are in charge. Some with agendas of evil that will keep the epic battle raging.
Hitler, obviously.
Turned it, I think 50% more. Who's that? Is that a stranger? Must be a teacher.
Don't jump.
You won't.
Why are we always seeing people jumping roofs?
Bye-bye.
Yes.
Oh, so it's more.
That's an awful opening. Oh, stock market crash, guys. That's why people started to do that. Right?
That's totally the right reason why.
Listen.
The New York Stock Exchange suffers the most catastrophic crash we'll ever see, losing over $14 billion in just one day.
$14 billion.
The crash launches a heartbreaking era for America. The Great Depression.
The stock market crash of 1929 came as a rude awakening. Employment fell, production fell, unemployment numbers rose, homeless numbers rose, all of the negative indicators about an economy just got worse and worse, and people kept looking for the bottom. But the bottom never came. And they began to wonder, is this economy ever going to right itself?
Right? And Hoover didn't help, right? So.
The fallout from the Great Depression quickly spreads throughout the world, toppling the economies of Europe, including Great Britain, France, and Italy. But one of the countries taking the biggest hit is Germany.
I've never been to Germany. Have you ever been to Germany?
Frankfurt.
The European nation is still struggling to pay over $80 billion in reparations.
I've never been anywhere in Europe.
The modern equivalent of nearly $500 billion.
You'll get there, Mrs.
And the
Welch.
depression just makes things worse. But one man wants to use the national crisis to his advantage.
Join us!
Years earlier, Adolf Hitler attempted a violent overthrow of the German government and failed. After his release from prison, he spent years trying to get his movement off the ground, but his party was in disarray, and his message was ignored. But now, the Depression has provided Hitler with the perfect opportunity to build the Nazi Party.
The stock market crash had immediate ramifications in Germany. Unemployment increased so dramatically that it opened the door for radical movements to gain support. It was the Great Depression that made Hitler possible.
Hitler believes he can rally the desperate people around his vision of a new, powerful Germany. Setting in motion a plan he first described in the manifesto he wrote in prison.
What we must fight for is to safeguard the existence and the reproduction of our race and our people. Mein Kampf is enormously significant. It provided a kind of outline for all the things that Hitler wanted to do eventually.
Hitler clearly believed passionately from the start of his career right to the end that the Jews were the world enemy who intended to destroy Germany. It's a paranoid fantasy because he believed he was chosen by destiny to rescue Germany.
We must reverse the Treaty of Versailles, that our people be set free, that these chains be burst asunder.
Hitler recruits new members to his party and tours the country, giving impassioned speeches and distributing posters flyers, and other propaganda.
What the Nazis did was to project an image of energy, vigor, youth, determination in the service of Germany. They're constantly marching through the streets with banners. There's constant speeches, meetings, huge activity. And this projects this image of that they're going to do something. All the other parties are just wasting their time talking. We're actually going to do something.
If the nation does its duty, then the day will come which restores to us one life in honor and freedom.
Hitler's speeches had some kind of unique power. He served as a lightning rod for all the discontent in Germany. He managed to focus it and channel it and become it.
Within a few years, the National Socialist Party is transformed from a fringe organization into a growing political movement. Now, with widespread support, Hitler's dream is finally within his grasp.
It was a long and twisted path for Hitler, from the corporal of World War I to the man aspiring to the leadership of all of Germany. He goes from being a spy to being an inspiring orator, to only in the late 1920s beginning to aspire to the role of leader in his own right, Führer of the German race nation.
Miles away. The American people are desperate for hope and new leadership. And in a pivotal election year, they look to a candidate who promises to pull them from the edge of collapse. Franklin Delano Roosevelt. 15 years earlier, Roosevelt served as Assistant Secretary of the Navy under President Woodrow Wilson. After the war, his political career looked promising. Until a devastating diagnosis brought everything to a halt. Polio. At age 39, Roosevelt was left permanently paralyzed from the waist down.
Polio kind of wipes FDR off from the map for much of the 1920s. Their lost years. He's working just to be able to walk, a few yards, and nobody really thought he would resurrect his political fortunes again.
But he refuses to give in.
What?
And after years of persistent rehabilitation, Roosevelt slowly works his way back up the political ladder. And during one of the darkest times in American history, Roosevelt runs for president and wins.
Those who knew him said that having polio and trying to climb his way out of that did change him, gave him a capacity to understand other people's experiences, people who were suffering in a way that he never had.
Roosevelt has pulled himself up from the depths of misfortune. And now it's up to him to do the same for America.
Let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Here is a man in a wheelchair that's telling us we have nothing to fear but fear itself, that he's licked a physical disability, and it has a huge impact. He was telling us, we don't give in, we never throw in the towel, we will prevail, we are American.
This great nation will endure as it has endured. We will thrive and will prosper.
He was a great, great motivator, arguably ranks amongst the very top of our presidents that was able to speak directly to the American people.
Hang photo, Mr. President.
The same year Roosevelt is first elected, German leaders give Adolf Hitler his ceremonial position in the government, hoping to pacify his movement. Little do they know, they've just provided Hitler with a platform for takeover.
There is a fundamental miscalculation on the part of the conservative elites who are responsible for hoisting Hitler to power. Everyone thought that he and his movement can be controlled.
Hitler quickly begins mobilizing his Nazi party. He wants complete and total control of Germany.
So right now, guys, this is following what we've already talked about. I talked a lot about Germany.
He who rises against Germany is a traitor to his country, and traitors to their country are suppressed in accordance with laws of iron. I hoped it might not be necessary any longer to be forced to defend the state with arms in our hands. But since fate has now put us to the test, every people is itself guilty, does not find the strength to destroy such noxious creatures. At this hour, there was no place for any clemency. If anyone reproaches me and asks why I did not resort to the normal courts of justice, then all I can say to him is this: in this hour, I was responsible for the fate of the German people, and thereby I became the supreme judge of the German people. When traitors in Germany arrange a meeting with a foreign statesman, and when they give strict orders that no word of this meeting shall reach me, then I will have such men shot dead. There is no right, there is no position that can protect him from his responsibility. And therefore,
So he's just
his
killing
punishment,
people, I guess.
I gave the order to shoot those who were the ringleaders of this treason. Everyone must know for all future time that if he raises his hand to strike the state, then certain death is his lot.
In what will become known as the Night of the Long Knives, Hitler eliminates nearly 100 of his political enemies.
What? That's crazy. I didn't know that.
So what he did was terrible, but he was very smart.
Yes, he was, which is why we got where he was. He was a terrible person, but he got what he wanted.
Adolf Hitler has taken
Some
complete
people
control of
consider
the
him a
government.
genius. He's just
He's good at
Is now the
manipulating.
supreme leader of Germany.
Huh? Oh, that's not good.
I'm saying that.
Following the stock market crash in 1929, the world
Reminds
was
me of
immersed in a Great Depression.
Okay, so back to us
The
now.
generation bloodied from the deadliest war the world has ever seen is now coming to power.
What kind of camera was that anyway? It's like
In the United
fake
States,
camera.
President Franklin Delano Roosevelt
So
has a plan to bring his nation out of the darkness of the Depression. Roosevelt is convinced that the best way to battle back is to focus on home. He establishes what he calls the New Deal.
Whether we break ground within this week, within this week. And for each one of these, we're talking 1,500, 2,000 people working. God, I think this is good.
Goes back to the welfare programs we talked about, all that kind of stuff.
New Deal is the largest public works program in American history.
What was the New Deal?
Funding over 35,000 projects, from the construction of bridges and highways to the Hoover Dam, the largest dam in the world. Roosevelt hopes that the New Deal can save the country from the brink of collapse. But the project comes with a massive cost, and he knows something in the American budget will have to give.
How are you doing? Of course. Yes, well, we have to take care of the people starving on the Great Plains. Yes, we must address that.
The greatness of a president
What's the Dust Bowl?
is you have to make a judgment. You're in charge, nobody else.
Yeah, boss. I understand.
Your responsibility, whether it goes right or wrong, it's your baby.
To pay for his New Deal, Roosevelt slashes U.S. military spending by 51%. The decision enrages the Chief of Staff of the United States Army, General Douglas MacArthur.
Is there any way it can move a little bit faster?
I guess if we...
It has to go as fast as possible.
MacArthur is a decorated veteran from the First World War. Whose experience on the front lines confirmed his belief that the survival of the nation depends on a powerful military.
MacArthur, as Chief of Staff of the Army, believed that the Army needed to be strong. And MacArthur, not for the first time, nor for the last time, took issue with the position of his Commander-in-Chief.
Mr. President, the budget discussions are over.
If you look particularly at Franklin Roosevelt and Douglas MacArthur, those are two very big egos. Like tectonic plates moving. One is a hugely self-confident general trying to do what he thinks is right. And then you've got a president who has turf that he wants to protect.
There will be a next war, Mr. President. And when we lose it, and our American boys are lying in the mud with an enemy bayonet through their belly, I want the last name they curse, the last name to pass from their dying lips to be Roosevelt.
Across the Atlantic, America's closest ally is also struggling to pull itself out of the Depression. Great Britain launches a New Deal of its own, investing in a nationwide program to build millions of homes and power stations, hoping to lay the foundation for a lasting peace. And just like in America, to pay for the program, the government is forced to gut military spending. One man has a huge problem with that. Winston Churchill. By 1934, Churchill was back in the British Parliament, but his experiences in the trenches of the Western Front have changed him. Like MacArthur, Churchill is convinced that the weakened military will leave his country vulnerable in a still dangerous world.
Churchill was seen pretty much as a maverick. Intelligent, able, brilliant on many occasions, but a maverick who stood apart from the opinions of other people, who was thought to be too reckless.
Churchill's greatest fear is that without a strong military, Great Britain will be defenseless. But for now, he stands alone. states repair their economies by building bridges and highways. Adolf Hitler has his own version of the New Deal. He's going to rebuild Germany's military.
Our work is urgent. Time for us is scarce. Hitler's main aim from the very beginning was to build up Germany's military strength. So, whereas FDR had civil job creation programs, Hitler had military job creation programs, and that's the real difference. Gentlemen, this is good news, and we are grateful. Our country is grateful.
Because of the restrictions placed on Germany by the Treaty of Versailles, Hitler is forced to rearm in total
This is what we
secrecy.
just talked about. Because they were taking a lot of things away. He's trying to fix what damage that we had done by the Treaty of Versailles.
Hitler personally oversees the top secret program himself.
My theory, you honor us with your presence here today.
We will be able to work 24 hours around the clock because we're going to be doing this immediately.
Ja, meint ihr?
It's very important that we make sure that this becomes and remains a clandestine activity. We're clear on that.
Jawohl, meint ihr?
Hitler creates this massive production capability, builds factories that are turning out tanks and planes. He does it all in secret. And he has many of the factories disguised as elementary schools. In today's world, that may seem impossible. But back in the 1930s, as logistically challenging as it was not impossible.
With the Allies completely unaware, Hitler's secret factories begin mass producing thousands of fighter planes and tanks to be manned by 500,000 brand new Nazi recruits. Hitler knows he's launched a dangerous campaign. But if he can keep it under the radar, he'll be able to make Germany the most dominant power in the world. In the wake of the Great Depression, new leaders around the world are desperately looking for ways to pull their nations out of the collapse. While some are busy building bridges and dams, others are making tanks and planes as they secretly re-establish dominant fighting forces, preparing to drag the world back to war. The tenuous peace is about to be broken, but the first move won't come from Germany. For the past decade, Benito Mussolini has ruled Italy with an iron fist. After the First World War, Italy failed to get any new territory during negotiations for the Treaty of Versailles.
There's a feeling that Italians have been cheated, and for a lot of people in Italy, they come out of the war with the mentality of a defeated nation despite being victorious. And Mussolini and people who thought like him, Italian democracy had failed the nation.
Mussolini became convinced that the only way to return Italy to greatness was for the country to be led by a strong, absolute ruler, himself. And now, after years of preparation, he's finally ready to expand the Italian empire. His first target is Ethiopia, a key entryway into the Middle East. Mussolini Mussolini conquers the country in a matter of weeks, suddenly shattering a tentative world peace that's held since 1918. Back in Germany, Adolf Hitler has been watching Mussolini's aggressive quest for power.
Hitler regarded Mussolini as the successful senior fascist. He had effectively established his dictatorship, was continuing to build it up. So Hitler looked to Mussolini as a model.
Hitler knows if he's ever going to accomplish his own dreams of German dominance, he'll need to get Mussolini on his side.
The relationship between Mussolini and Hitler is quite a surprising story. Hitler is, after all, a failed painter, and Italy to him means Florence and lovely Renaissance art.
While Hitler sees an opportunity to learn from his hero, for Mussolini, the meeting comes at a crucial moment.
The conquest of Ethiopia by Mussolini, regardless of outrage, motions have passed against him. He has to turn to somebody as a friend. Hitler is the only person. At that point then, the two become closer.
The two leaders have a mutual understanding. Both have spent the past few years enhancing their armies, and both are now looking to expand their power. So they form an alliance that will become the foundation of the Axis powers. With Mussolini on his side, Hitler feels confident he can start his own conquest of Europe. His first target is a territory taken from Germany after the First World War, the Rhineland.
The Rhineland was the industrial heart of Germany, and Germany had been deprived of all the Rhineland was manufacturing goods. They were being exported as part of war reparations.
Hitler knows a potential invasion of the Rhineland is a huge risk. It's guarded by heavily armed British and French soldiers who have orders to enforce the Treaty of Versailles. But it's a risk he's willing to take. He orders 22,000 men into the Rhineland, looking to reclaim what he believes to rightfully belong to Germany.
Upstairs.
They're across the border.
When the Germans entered the Rhineland in March of 1936, this was Hitler's first. When the Germans.
We'll stop there, right? Alright, so this is where we're going. So this kind of followed perfectly, went along with everything we talked about, and now it's moving into what's going to happen that we're going to start going over next. So I think of the questions that you had, you probably could have answered number 1.
Oh, I didn't. Wait.
Axis and ally. Okay. Probably the only one that we would have talked about.
Should we do it right now?
Yeah, you can do it right now.
Oh,
You
can
put
you-
lights on, mister?
Sure.
I need my binder.
What's going on, everyone? Just watch your eyes.
do today. Like that. So, what was allies?
Yep. This is what else you access and allies, right?
Yeah, it's the only way to go with them.
Yep.
So what do I put? I don't remember. Can you give me a hint? I forgot.
No, we just literally went over it.
Yep. So, Baton, what do you think?
Watch the whole video.
So do I say Italy here?
Look it up.
Yeah, it's gonna say, take a look, Baton, right up there. It'll.
So what is it? France?
Well, who was this? Let me just tell you, I'll give. These are the bad guys.
So Germany?
Germany
And what other country?
Italy.
Wait, Italy was bad?
Access.
Wait,
They were together.
Italy? This was by Italy, right?
Guys,
Just
who are
make
the
that
access
make it
powers?
an A. Just make it an A, and you got it.
And
Eventually
allies,
it's gonna
US?
add- So far we've learned
And
that
that's
it's
it.
Germany, Italy, and gentlemen. No.
Who else?
Guys?
Germany, Italy,
Go put
Japan
me
are
some
said to be the access
And
powers,
Japan.
and
You're
then
gonna put there too, Japan.
during that time, and the allies are all of us.
How about the? Is it US? And Mr. Harris as well?
Oh, it was Britain
Right.
and France.
France?
BRITAIN. AIN. You got it. And France
9:30. They were hungry
and
and
Russia.
We never talked about Russia.
You'll see that.
Let's spell
You-
Russia.
This
All
isn't
you- that's just
technically
IA.
IA?
IA. You got it. And there you go. Good start. Watch it.
That's question one?
I guess we'll do what, we'll talk more about what, but it's 3 and the rest.
That really was a good. What is that movie called? It's a good
It's
movie.
called the War World.
Oh, okay. Oh, no wonder.
This is not white. I love that.
Oh, well, let me take that. And I think you played it very well.
Yeah.
I never did with the other side.
Exactly.
And, you know, that's not efficient.
Ben, what? I.
Domino effect. You know, when it's older. All right, that really
What the
is good.
hell are you doing?
It turned out nice.
Just.
Olivia, bell didn't ring yet. Guys, the deal is to get away from the doors. That's the deal. All stand.
New deal. Stand behind
Right here. Let me close this.
Just come in. If you're gonna come in here.
Once the bell rings.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah. Olivia, don't bring your back in.
Oh, it's Joy.
Anybody that borrowed a laptop, I get everything back.
Olivia, don't bring your back in.
Guys, back away from the doors. Anybody that borrowed a laptop, I get everything back. Guys, back away from the doors. Anybody that borrowed a laptop, I get everything back.
I'm not daydreaming the notes. I punched you so hard you almost fell off the chair.
Have a good weekend, everyone. Weekend? It's fun. I was so much fun. This is close. That is so I'm going to
truck. It's the most complicated.
Why is the engine cap always in the rear of the engine bay? Oh, we have a minute. What? Taking out the drain plug.
Let me see.
Actually, put me on first.
Really?
Well, somebody's been taking him out of here and leaving the Band-Aid things on here. Okay, I'll find out who it is. I'm gonna move the Band-Aids. Well, somebody's been taking him out of here and leaving the Band-Aid things on here. I keep having to move stuff. I'll find out who it is. I'm gonna move the Band-Aids. Basically, you don't fall.
They won't arrest us. See, it's soon. If I can get pulled over.
I did get it. I did, however, get it.
I'm guessing that dance is not a thing.
It's a little bit like without a joke.
He knew that was gonna, like, he knew going over that. Like, I'm that way that show video of it, it's gonna be one of those railroad tracks that, like, clearly go up, stop, and then come back down. It's gonna be one of those, like, really obvious. I don't feel bad for
Probably like 2:15.
Like way airborne.
Bring it up to see the lights.
Dark sky.
That's what he called it.
Fly that floor. You still have one. And I don't feel bad for him at all. Like he knew that you can't judge. Like there's no way he didn't know that. Like he passes that spot like all the time. And he forgot that.
I mean, it would be, bro.
No, if you're in a place out so you don't know there's a railroad. I say right the railroad. Like, you don't just go through the intersection and fly 20 feet. Like, that's not.
Alright, so just on the way stuff. Let's get ready.
Can I charge my phone today? Please?
No.
Why not? I just want it today.
I don't need a reason why.
Alright, yeah. What? I know, I'm gonna put it somewhere because these thieves steal it. I'm good.
Let me hit you guys real fast.
You just need to hide there.
Justin. Okay. You don't want to say it out loud going up here. With the schools closing in PA, I want to make sure just in case, right? Because I didn't know there's 5 schools closed in PA for the fire. But they're going to close this. I want to make sure I get a hold of you because you're going to have to go to school at home. Okay? So your number is
Have you ever tried using the